So good evening, everyone. This is my presentation for a leadership demonstration. I will be doing the article over inclusive leadership, which was by Burke and Espedito. Um, why inclusive leaders are good for organizations and how to become one. So first off, let's start off with the definition of inclusive leadership. It's a leadership that assures that all team members feel that they're treated respectfully, fairly, they're valued, they sense that they belong, and they're confident and they're inspired. With inclusive leadership, there's a direct correlation with performance being enhanced as a team or as an organization. The decision making of the team and organization is enhanced. The collaborativeness of the group and the team is more so, and it increases work attendance of employees. So Burke and Espedito did research and did it over 4,100 employees, a little bit more than that, and they surveyed them about inclusion. And from the research, there were 17 discrete behaviors that were identified to enforce inclusion. Um, Moving on. So the first six traits or behaviors that distinguish um, inclusiveness um, were the visible commitment, which meaning they articulate a leader. Articulates authentic commitment to diversity. They challenge the status quo and hold others accountable. Make diversity and inclusion a personal priority. The next one is humility. They are modest about their capabilities. They admit to their mistakes and they create space for others to contribute. For example, for me, for humility, um, would be in a coaching situation. Let's say this past year, we were coaching and we were in a game, and Coach Terry drew up something on the board, and I wasn't about to go to Coach Terry and be like, "Hey, that's wrong," in the middle of his drawing, But I definitely did say something to the assistant coach as he was drawing it up, and the assistant coach um, relayed that to Coach Terry, the head coach, and it was immediately changed. And Coach Terry was obviously in the moment, and he, after the timeout, he was like, "Man, my bad, man. I was just in the moment. I admit it." He admitted to his mistake of putting a player in a position on the board where they shouldn't have been. The next one is awareness of bias. So the leader shows awareness of personal blind spots as well as flaws in the system and work hard to ensure mediocrity. Sorry. Um, so really, with this one, having an awareness of your bias, it's not easy, but I believe that whenever you're trying to get an awareness of yourself, asking questions to your peers to gain insight about you is really the best way to go about that. Um, a lot of people don't see you the same, and you could ask all the players on the team this past year how they saw Coach Terry, and everybody would have a different answer because of the way that they're treated, and that's fair. But for you as a leader to gain awareness of your biases towards people, towards players, towards your organization, towards everything, I think the best way to go about it would to be ask questions to them, to your peers or to your employees or to your team members, whoever it may be, to gain insight about yourself. Moving on, the next one is curiosity about others. So the leader, demonstrates an open mindset and deep curiosity about others. Listens to them without judgment, and seek with empathy to understand those around them. So, just understanding that it's not all about you, and you're actually genuinely curious about others and how they're living, how they're doing, how their day to day life is going. It makes them feel that you care. And this is a part of inclusiveness. The next one, cultural intelligence. This is the fifth one. They are attentive to others, cultures, and adapt as required. So, with cultural intelligence, I love this one because with the game of basketball, it's changed so much over the past few years, so much, to the point to where it is, you know, kind of uncomfortable for old school coaches to be coaching these players. They look at them and they think, you know, these guys are gonna do what I tell them to do, and they're gonna do it the way that I want them to do. And the coaches who are doing that are not seeing as much success as the coaches who are allowing the players to play their style, but also at the same time use their style and incorporate it into the player style as well. The game is changing. The game of basketball is changing. So you look at it and you think the game's changing. So that means the players are changing. People will look at players such as Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving. You know, LeBron is an influential player. Just basketball players, Kevin Durant. I could go on, but these guys play the game differently than the guys that you could say they grew up watching. You know, and that causes the players now, the younger players, to look at them and think, well, this is how I should play. You know, they look at the way Steph Curry comes across half court and just shoots a three from almost half court. It's something that those guys, like younger players, look at and they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, when having a cultural intelligence about your players in the game of basketball and how the culture of the game is changing, coaches need to change too. Leaders need to change too, you know? So that would be the cultural intelligence. And the last one is effective collaboration. So effective collaboration, which means the leader empowers others. They pay attention to diversity of thinking and psychological safety on the focus on team cohesion. Yeah, so moving on. The difference between assessing and developing good leadership generally versus inclusive leadership in particular lies in three specific insights. The first insight was most leaders in the study that was done with the 4,100 people or more, most of them were unsure whether, you know, their team or their organization viewed them as experienced them as inclusive leaders or not inclusive leaders. And you know, there was some that did actually view their leaders as inclusive. There was some that didn't view them as inclusive, and there was some that had no idea of whether they thought they were inclusive or not. And this was split up into about three thirds, so 33% just about with every single one. And you know, being aware of your capabilities as a leader, and it goes back to you know, just the curiosity about others and awareness of the biases that you have. Being aware of your inclusive capabilities and the impact that it has on others is very critical to understanding where your inclusiveness lies. You know, the second one was being rated as an inclusive leader is not determined by the average of all the members in your organization, your team, your program. Let's say I had 15 players and I took a poll, and the average came back that, or I took a poll, I'm sorry. I took a poll and I was like, hey, like, you guys think I'm inclusive or not? And they all answered whatever they want to answer. And the average came back like, yes, most of them think you're inclusive, so that makes me an inclusive leader. And no, that is not the case. It's more so of inclusive means if there's one person on that team or that organization that does not feel included, or feels like you're a non-inclusive leader, then that makes you a non-inclusive leader. And being inclusive, it means everyone is involved. It means everyone is a part of whatever you have going on. And thirdly, inclusive leadership is not about the occasional grand gestures, but regular small-scale comments and actions. So inclusive leadership is a tangible and should be practiced every day, is what the article says. And I believe that. You know, whenever it comes to understanding not just having to give a gesture every now and then and think you're inclusive, but really actually genuinely caring in your heart and understanding that um, it's something that needs to be practiced every single day with all of your employees. Then that makes for a more inclusive leader, if you could say. Um, so, moving on, some of the tangible behaviors most inclusive leaders study, which was written in the article. These are some. Um, uh, these inclusive leaders love to share their personal weaknesses, and I know that's hard for anyone to share their weakness. This leader will openly ask about information that he or she is not aware of. Demonstrates humble work manner and puts others at ease, enabling them to speak out and voice their opinions and their values. You know, whenever you are asking questions to your own employees, it gives them a sense of, well, maybe my opinion is valued. Maybe I am I am something that I believe I am. You know, for example, during a recruitment meeting, I was sitting in there, and Coach Terry simply asked me, but I'm from Oklahoma, and he asked me about a guy from Oklahoma. I have nothing to do with recruiting with the UTEP men's program, and I did have nothing to do with it. But he asked me about a kid from Oklahoma, and he asked me my thoughts on him, and that let me be included, if you would say, in really in recruitment. It made me feel like I was a part of whatever was going on in that room at the time, if that makes sense. Um, um, the leader learns about cultural differences. This leader is taking the time to learn about the ropes and the common words, the customs, and the likes and dislikes of everyone. And this goes back to really, sorry, this goes back to understanding the differences between all your employees and being really involved and actually caring, you know, acknowledging lastly, the third, acknowledging team members as individuals. This leader leads a team, basically over 100 people, yet addresses every team member by name, and works to stream that they support and they work and they do. So acknowledging everyone and making everyone feel special. It's hard for a leader to genuinely remember everybody's name in the program or a part of the organization, but when you do that, it shows how involved you actually are, and it shows your inclusiveness and your want to understand not only your company, but to make your company better. So here are some of the actions and behaviors that show non-inclusive leaders. Firstly, overpowering others. This leader can be very direct, overpowering, which limits the ability of those around them to contribute to meetings or participate in conversations. Um, Another one is displays favoritism. Work is assigned to the top performers, creating a sustainable workload. There's a need to give newer team members opportunities to prove themselves. So I know we all have been a part of favoritism, whether you're on the winning or losing side of it. It sucks, especially when you're on the losing side. But not displaying favoritism, not trying to overpower others, and lastly, um, discount alternative views. This leader can have a very set idea on specific topics, and it's difficult to get a different view across to them. Their risk that this team may be held back from bringing forward really the most success that they can get from the root of their inclusive team. And within all three of these things, alternative views and the favoritism and overpowering others, these are three things that kind of crush the inclusiveness of a group, of a leader. And yeah, so moving forward, it takes energy and deliberate effort to create inclusive culture. And that starts with leaders paying much more attention to what they say and do on a daily basis and making adjustments as necessary. Here are 4 ways for leaders to get started. Know your inclusive leadership shadow. So seek feedback on whether you are perceptive as inclusive, especially from people who are different from you. This will help you see your blind spots, your strengths, and your areas for development. Secondly, be visible and vocal. Tell a compelling and explicit narrative about why being inclusive is important to you personally and the business more broadly. For example, share your personal stories at a public forum or conference. Whenever you do this, it creates for a more open environment between you and employees or coaches and team. Thirdly, deliberately seek out difference. People give people the your network the chance in your network, the chance to speak up, invite different people to the table, catch up with a broader network. For example, seek out opportunities to work cross-functional or multidisciplinary teams to leverage diverse strengths. And the last one is check your impact. Look for signals that you are having a positive impact. Are people copying your role modeling? Is there a more diverse group of people sharing ideas with you? Are you working together more collaboratively? Ask a trusted advisor to give you a candid feedback on areas you have been working on. So there's more to be learned about being an inclusive leader. And harnessing the power of diverse teams. But one thing is really clear, and leaders who consciously practice inclusive leadership on a daily basis and actively develop their capability to see the results in superior performance in their diverse teams make for more inclusive leaders.